Alrighty, everyone. So we got Penny Bradley on again. After listening to Tucker Carlson's recent interview with Catherine Austin Fitts talking about the black budget and underground tunnels and just all this money being siphoned off and simultaneous building of parallel societies, as she said. And also the things she talked about, like the Bank of International Settlements being the bank of all the central banks. I thought, oh my gosh, I really want to run all this stuff by Penny. I know that Catherine Austin Fitts would not draw the correlation between all this money being siphoned and underground having to do with outer space and things like that. They won't make that leap. I guess they're too worried, or maybe they don't know. But regardless, Penny, please take it away with the points that we were discussing prior.
Okay. For transparency, I follow Catherine Austin Fitts. I follow her salary report. I follow her on X, formerly Twitter. I have the absolute utmost respect for this woman. And she has made the connection between the missing money and the secret space programs. She was in a conference in San Mateo. I'm not sure the year, but it's been at least a decade ago, where she talked about that Earth was not a closed system because all this money keeps disappearing, and that the secret space program is the only logical way that this could keep happening. The only logical thing is that Earth is not a closed system. So, and that was this century. The videos are on YouTube. It was the SSP conference in San Mateo. She was one of the main speakers. So she has talked about it. Now, everything that she and Tucker talked about, other than the detailed information about money, I've talked about all of that. I've been talking about it the whole time I've been public. There are underground, deep underground military bases. There is a deep underground alternate civilization because um, the CIA have something they call the Adam and Eve story. And it told them that there was going to be a worldwide destruction coming and that it's 500 years overdue. They don't have an exact time frame on it, but they know it's coming, they know it's late, and they know that time is short. They also do not have the resources to save us all. So they're saving themselves. I mean, that's the bottom line. If you're on the surface this century, you've been written off. That's reality. So, that being said, they've gone about it very systematically. Um, Phil Schneider was one of the engineers who was building the system. He told us about it before we even were online. Come on. Uh, there's been a secret space program since at least Roswell in the United States. There was a secret space program in Prussia, which expanded and took over Germany. There's been a secret space program there since the 1600s. It was started by Sir John Dee and his sidekick, Edward Kelly. They contacted Enochians who they thought were angels. And they have several books written in Middle English where they go through and they translate Enochian into Middle English. And these books are available online as free PDFs. I mean, The information's out there. I'm not making up any of this. John Dee got in trouble with the Pope for practicing magic. He actually did prison time in the Vatican for practicing magic. His sidekick, who was the one who was actually the channeler, took refuge in Bohemia and then Russia. Today we call Bohemia the Czech Republic. These places are real. So all of these areas were part of what used to be called the Holy Roman Empire. There's a joke that it was neither Holy Roman nor an empire. That's sort of true. It was more of a confederacy with a king at the top. He was more a figurehead than anything else. And these were they started off being Germanic states, but you know the Axis powers in World War II? That line that went from the North Sea all the way down into Italy and Sicily, that line, that was the Holy Roman Empire. The Axis was the Holy Roman Empire. The entire purpose of World War I and World War II, from their point of view, was they were restoring the Holy Roman Empire that Napoleon had destroyed under orders from the Rothschilds. And this makes a difference because they're presented as wanting to take over the world. That wasn't true. They were just trying to restore their own former glory. Gee, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? In order to consolidate power, they demonize the minority. That sounds familiar too, doesn't it? In a lot of ways, we are repeating the 1930s. And frankly, it scares the shit out of me. But yes, I have inside sources. Okay, like I mentioned when we were talking, if you go from a scale of knowing nothing at 0 to knowing everything at 20, I'm somewhere between a 10 and a 12. There are a lot of people out there who know a hell of a lot more than I do. And you, okay, for the audience, you gave me a list of topics that you wanted us to consider covering. Some of them I don't know. I just don't know. And I'm going to skip over those because I have no information. Anything I would say would be pure speculation and totally useless. Yeah, I'm trying to give people actionable information. I'm not trying to make the mess worse. So, what Catherine Austin Fitts talked about in her interview with Tucker Carlson is all 3D real, all truth. Um, in other contexts, she does make that leap to the secret space program. In other contexts, she does make the leap to the subterranean world. Because if you go back to Eisenhower's era, he asked the Jason Committee for alternatives. The first alternative they said was to blow a hole in the atmosphere and let the pollution escape.
Operation Fishbowl or whatever. That they call it the South American anomaly in the ozone.
Yeah, the South American anomaly is the result of that. They tried all three. The second one was to build underground facilities for as many of the people as they could take. That's what she was talking about with the secondary uh, deep underground military bases and the secondary civilians around that. That was alternative 2. Alternative 3 was to colonize other worlds. That's the SSP. They have done all 3 options. All 3 alternatives are in play. So, yeah, she makes perfect sense to me. Okay. Then on the economic side that she talked about, the Bureau, the Bank of International Settlements. It really is the central bank of all central banks. It really is a sovereign entity. It really has no one normal over it. What it has over it are a group I've come to call the old royals. The royals you see, the British royals, Denmark, Sweden, Belgium, Netherlands, even the ones in the Mediterranean, those are not the old royals. Those are faces for the royals, spokesmen. Um, this goes back 5,000 years. Okay, when the Anunnaki were on Earth, the primary species among them were, well, Michael Lee Hill calls them Sams. Uh, I use I use the term from A.R. Borden's book Fireball, which was Jahami. And if you say it fast, they're basically the same word. But they are who created us. There was a hominid, Homo erectus, and the Jahami modified the DNA in an egg from a Homo erectus, where they combined 2 chromosomes into one so that we would be reproductively compatible with them. Up to that point, all hominids had 48 chromosomes. We have 46. All hominids since then had 46. There have been 25 attempts in the fossil record to make a worker being that was smart enough to do the work and dumb enough to not rebel. Basically, physically capable of doing the work, smart enough to do the work, but would not rebel. Someone who would automatically worship the Shahami. I've met Shahami, physical, real world, in the flesh. The hardest thing I ever did was refusing to kneel before them, because it's hardwired into us to submit completely to them. So they created Homo sapiens, and then because they didn't want to do the hands-on day-to-day control of what everybody did, they created a second species that was a hybrid between Homo sapiens and the Shahami. And these are the folks that rule the world. They were literally created to be our overseers. Some of them are really, really, really angry about this. They are tired of watching out for what they call monkey bloods, what they call stupids, what They call useless eaters. And yeah, I've heard a lot of that because I'm blood kin to these people, and yet I'm still O positive. They only honor the Rh negative. And some of them are really upset because they were forced to accept me into their realm. I have mentioned I have a tutor. I have not mentioned that he decreed that I was family and that he would not tolerate me being abused. And the abuse that I was subjected to up to then stopped on a dime. So this man is in a position of power, unlike anything most people can understand. And yes, it's a hierarchical system. Bloodlines matter. The number of lines of descent from someone who was in power determines your rank. But it's all one family. They are so inbred that they're not more than fourth cousins apart. I'm an outlier because I'm a seventh cousin to most of them, because my line lost itself in the late 1700s by moving to Cherokee Nation, basically declared dead. And so all of those descendants lived free until I did my family tree online, public, and I got caught. I have apologized to my brother. My sisters won't talk to me. I have apologized to my first cousins on my dad's side because I exposed them as well. We are no longer free because I effed up. So a lot of what I know is by trial and error. But yeah, I'm grateful that this one man chose to teach me what I missed by our family being gone. So, do I have a full born to the family understanding? No. But he spent the last 15 years teaching me. And so I'm grateful for the understanding. Um, Now, the questions you had were regarding first the Bank of International Settlement. And I think I'm going to share that website if that's okay with you.
Yeah, whatever you like.
So I think I have to open it. Bank for International Settlement. There. Okay. That one. Okay. I This is the website for the Bank for International Settlements. And this is the homepage where they talk about all of this stuff. Uh, AI and human capital, AI and central banks, international banking statistics, Project Meridian FX, research at the Bank of International Settlements, central bankers, BIS management, Yeah, it's a full corporate kind of, yeah, supply chain transmission of climate related physical risks. There's a lot of things that are mentioned here. This is a real site, the BIS data portal. And these are payment statistics update. Newest data show continue. They want us to go to cashless payments, credit transfers, and e-money because they can control where that's spent and they can turn it off if they don't like how you're spending it. So this, what do they say? The BIS's mission is to support central banks' pursuit of monetary and financial stability through international cooperation and to act as a bank for central banks. That's a polite way of saying we run the show. And it's not controlled by Homo sapiens. I think that's something that I needs to be made clear. It is controlled by Homo capensis. That's the overseer species. And over them is a group that used to be in charge. They were a earlier human species, and they were controlling the Homo capensis. And all but two of them are dead. I still hear two of them telepathically. So I know a male and a female. So I know they're still out there. Um, they haven't been able to shield from me. But yeah, the basal process. These are, okay, you need to understand their goal is to completely enslave every government on earth. They are about central control through the money. They keep governments indebted to them, and debt is slavery. This is how they operate. I don't think Catherine Austin Fitts was exactly that blunt, but that is how they operate. Um, the Bank of International Settlements is one of the ways that third world countries are kept third world. So that's one of the issues we've got going. So stop share. So I'm trying to think of the guy's name. There was a guy, he talked about being an economic hitman. Can't think of his name.
Questions of an economic hitman. I don't know his name right off bat, but how he went down to Panama. He's a young guy working for the CIA.
Yes, that guy. No, I don't remember his name. No, I don't know everything. Perkins or something like that. Um, and he's telling the truth. That is the way the United States strong arms countries. Bank of International Settlements makes him look like an amateur. They have this iron hand in a velvet glove approach. But their entire goal is to keep development low. Okay, the reason for this is they do not believe there are enough resources for everyone on the earth to live a good life. So they are rationing wealth and keeping the majority of it for the Homo capensis because they don't believe the rest of us are human anyway. So you asked about the Trilateral Commission and the Council on Foreign Relations and what was the difference between them. Okay. This is the Trilateral Commission homepage. Yeah, guys, they're real. They're real, they're real, they're real. And they just had a meeting last month in DC. They're real and they represent
David Rockefeller right there in the middle.
yeah,
Recognize.
David Rockefeller was the head. After he died, he was replaced. Okay, they represent North America, Europe, and Asia Pacific. Those are the three regions.
But not Antarctica.
Not Antarctica, not Africa. Yeah, but not South America, just North America, Europe, and Asia Pacific. And they use these to pretty much run the world. The director of the Trilateral Commission is the liaison between Earth and the Germans in space. I've got my camera right here. I have this problem that cameras break on me, and this particular one will not sit on my screen like it's supposed to. So I've got it on a block, and the block's in the way. So that's why I keep looking.
Oh, that's fine.
um, okay, I'm going to move that over. The Trilateral Commission consists of three main regional groups: North America, Europe, and Asia Pacific. The leadership in each consists of a chairman, deputy chairman, and executive director. The commission also has an executive committee consisting of 74 members. When it was first launched, the intention was to have an equal number of members from each of the three regions. The number soon began to grow, and the ceilings were imposed around 1980. The ceilings have had to be raised because new countries came to be represented. Okay, the North America group has Canada, United States, and Mexico with a total of 135 members. And the European group, you guys can read that. It has a total of 184 members. The Asia Pacific group has a total of 96 members. To help preserve the Commission's unofficial charter, members who enter into government roles must rotate off the Commission. New members are selected annually. The procedures for rotation and recruitment vary by national groups. David Rockefeller was the founder, and you can download lists of their members and their national groups. These are the chairs of the boards, deputy chairs. So there's two deputies for each category. Executive directors, one for each territory. The North American Executive Committee. I'm looking for who replaced David Rockefeller. So these are people who are controlling things behind the scenes, unelected, and yet running it. So do not tell me that this world is a democracy because it is not. And Asians are very much as represented as anyone else. The last time I looked, it was a lot easier to find who was the boss. And they didn't have pictures of them. And those of you who have paid attention to the current beliefs about who's who will find that most of these names have absolutely nothing to do with the family lists that are out there because those family lists have nothing to do with reality. The person who put them forward, I have heard family members laughing about how gullible he was, that he believed everything they told him. And it's been years ago, and they still giggle over him. I want you to pay particular attention to this one. Andrea Mitchell, Chief Washington Correspondent, NBC News, host of Andrea Mitchell Reports, MSNBC, and she's a member of the Trilateral Commission. Uh-huh. That's the kind of people who are really running the world. So the last time I looked, it was much easier to get to who was actually running it. I'm going a little bit slow so people can read it. You know, we do have an audience out there, I hope. Yeah, some of these companies, you know who they are. Dow, yeah, we know who that is. Alsea, I have no idea who that is. Member, Senate of Canada. I thought they didn't allow um, government officials. Dr. David Bernstein, orthopedic surgery resident physician, Mass General Brigham, senior researcher, Harvard Business School. Oh, okay. Sioux Lookout Friendship Accord. Yeah. Asia Pacific. I don't know who any of these people are, but Americans generally would not. Some are from different countries. One of the things that I learned from the family is that there are people in all racial identities who are actually family members. They simply interbred with the local people enough to look like them. And yet they are still no more than fourth cousins apart from the European and North American. That blew my mind. You get this picture in your head of what someone from the ruling class is supposed to look like, and it blows your mind when you find out you're way wrong. These are the Europeans. Chief Operating Officer, Walgreens Boots Alliance in London. Yes, her purple hair drew my attention. Lots and lots and lots of people, right?
Well, there's rings within rings, huh? Of power
Yeah.
or
Layers,
layers. Yeah.
layers. The people in the layer know who they are, so you cannot present yourself as one of them unless someone that's already there introduces you. And it's been an interesting trip. All these people are Francis Maud, member of the House of Lords, former Minister for Europe and Trade, FMA Partners, Senior Advisor Covington and Burling in London. Gampiero Masolo, Chairman Fincantieri in Rome, former Italian ambassador. Hervé Meriton, former member of the French National Assembly, former Minister for Overseas Territories, Paris. These are the kind of people. They're people, if you think about it, you know why they're there. Uh, I don't speak that language, so I may butcher his name. Arkadiusz Mus, sole shareholder of the Press Glass Group, member of the board for Civil Development Forum Foundation, founder of the Economic Freedom Foundation. The economic, I haven't heard a lot about the Economic Freedom Foundation. I really haven't. Claudia Nemat, member of the Board of Management, Deutsche Telekom in Bonn. These are people who are actually important. Rosen Plev, Plevnilev, former president of the Republic of Bulgaria, lives in Sofia. These are these are important people. Bulgaria is not a small place. People think, oh yeah, it's in Eastern Europe. It's got to be little. No, these are countries. Okay, European fellows. Oh no, they
Hey,
don't list who the director is. Oh my goodness.
Penny, if you don't mind, may we pause here? Can you hit the stop record real quick?
Give me a minute.